MSDA 665 Lab Introduction Video. It is critical that you watch this video. It is critical that you access 2 documents for each lab that you are assigned. Those 2 documents are the lab guide provided to us from Dell EMC and the hyperlink provided from me, your professor. Let's talk about those 2 very important documents. The lab guide. Within Blackboard, here in your Fall 2020 MSDA 665 class, under Module 0, there is a Get Stuff link. Within the Get Stuff link, you have all sorts of lab scripts, files, and at the bottom there is the lab guide and also the participant guide. These 2 documents, this is your book for the class and this is your book for the labs. So you click on that. I've done that, and you get something that looks like this. You can see it is 149 pages. It is intense. It is large. We are not doing every lab. Pay attention to the links within Blackboard and at chuckdowning.com for very specific instructions as to what you are supposed to do. For example, if you begin reading this right away, you get a lot of information about the infrastructure and the virtual machine. We are using R and RStudio locally. There will be no virtual machines used either from Dell or from NIU. And I apologize, but if a instructional video references a virtual machine, you will need to ignore it. You will be provided with everything you need to do to succeed in this class. Similarly, there is no NIU VPN being used. We are going to ask that you install R and RStudio locally on your machines and use those for the labs. Okay, so I've gotten my lab guide in the Get Stuff. The first lab you will see once you begin getting acquainted with the modules and the hyperlinks. We do not do a lab until Module 3, at which point we do Lab 2. I'm going to take you through the beginnings of that now. We are focusing on data scientist techniques and not infrastructure, and that is why we are not doing every lab. You will have all the knowledge needed to pass the certification exam given by Dell EMC at the end of the semester and to contribute as a data scientist in an organization. So that is certainly our focus. So we are doing select labs and select parts of labs, and you will need to combine. Here's the lab guide from Dell EMC. That includes everything, but here's an example of a hyperlink. This is for Lab 2. I will point you to these hyperlinks, and then it tells you exactly which parts you need to do and how it might differ from the full lab guide. So let's get started. First, you have to go ahead and download R and RStudio. This is an open source software package. If you go to the main website and go to the Get Stuff link, here's a link to download R and RStudio. You definitely want RStudio. That has the graphical user interface. This works, you follow the instructions. It depends if you have a PC or a Mac. And it is open source, so it's free. It works anywhere. You can download it as much as you want and keep it current. It's very powerful. Very worthwhile for you to use this. It seems that everyone in the data science world is using this or is aware of this. Even if you're using Tableau or SAS or a higher level package like that, in many cases the engine is built off of R. So you go ahead and download that. When you do, you get something that looks like this. This is RStudio, the IDE, Integrated Development Environment. So we have that, and then we say, okay, I'm going to go now. I have two things that I'm really focusing on. My lab guide, but first you want to read your professor provided hyperlink. Very importantly, it says, okay, you're not going to do everything in the lab guide. These questions here are how you get credit for the lab. So there are more questions in the lab guide. This is a subset. We are only answering these questions, and we're going to post the questions to our Google Sites under a directory or a page called Lab 02 in this case. So follow these directions. So it says watch the lab introduction video to help you complete this lab. That's what you're doing right now. This is the lab introduction video. There's two files that were created in lab 1 and we skipped that lab. So now we need to get a hold of these two files and we need to know where they are so we can work on them. And then we're going to grab the script. Okay. So another thing to know is the lab guide provides you with RStudio scripts. Similarly, those scripts are available in the Get Stuff link within Module 0. If you type it in from the lab guide, you're wasting a lot of time. So I say, okay, let's go back to my RStudio. This is the script area. This is called the console area. This is the files that are loaded area, the data area. And this has graphs, plots, and help. Shows up here. And you can move these around to fit your specific needs. Obviously, I do this bigger screen in general. And then one of my favorite things, there's always stuff in the console area. If you go here to the prompt and hit Control L or Command L on a Mac, you clean it out. Similarly, if you don't have a script, this would be X'd out and it would look like this. And you go right here and that makes a blank script area. And again, you can resize these and do what you need to do. So let's get our script for lab 2. If I was in the lab guide, it would tell me eventually to load the script. Here there's no script. It's starting out without a script in lab 2. So it says demo for some demos. So let's do it. If we want to follow the lab guide on there, we can do that. you're going to see something different in the lower left pane before you hit Control L, because the versions of RStudio are constantly changing, as you might expect. We can quit R with this. We can examine our work area. If we did ls parentheticals, it'll say character 0, which means there's nothing in my workspace. Let's verify that. Good. So let's see a demo of graphics. So there's a plot, and again, if I want to see that, I might do this. Simple use of color, that's kind of nice. And as you can see, hit return, I'm hitting return. Pretty nice, right? January pie sales. So that's a nice box plot. Okay, so nice. This is a very powerful package, RStudio, and it has over 15,000 packages that you can load into it to do even more advanced things, and we will be doing some of that during our labs and our examples on the videos. Lots going on. So finally, we're getting to the script. So now in the lab guide, it says read in the script. Module 3 lab1.r. Sometimes we change that to .text. We're going to the get stuff link again. I'm going into lab 2 here. Lab 2. And there's module 3 lab1.text. Is that what it says here? Yeah, that kind of doesn't make sense because this is lab 2. So again, you're keeping track of what's going on with the get stuff link, with the hyperlink, and with the lab guide. There will be some reconciliation needed. I will be providing instructions, but just, keep track of it. So basically, I got to click on this. It brings this up. This is a script for RStudio, and what we're going to be doing here is grabbing this. This is a big one. You don't want to type this. I'm grabbing that with my mouse and I'm saying Control C for copy, and then I'm going to RStudio, and now I've got a mess here, right? How about escape? Escape got me out. Now I say Control L, and now I'm going to X out of these. I'm back to my blank. I could clear this with the broom. See, I got these data loaded because of those demos. I don't need data anymore. Do you really want to get rid of it? Yeah, let's clear it out. And now I go up here into the script area. I've gone into the get stuff link, copied that script, and I say Control V. And now I have the script, and I can start running it. Okay, it's all well and good, except I go to my hyperlink and I see that these two files were created in lab 1 for a virtual machine to be used by the lab guide. So I stay calm. I say, Dr. Downing has made a bullet point. He's told me what to do. Basically, I need to make a directory, save these files by copying and pasting, and then adjust my script accordingly. It sounds hard. It's not that hard. As a data scientist, you obviously have to be a information systems professional. You have to be competent. You have to be able to do this stuff. So I stay calm. I say, okay, I got a couple extra steps because I'm using a local copy of RStudio. Those extra steps are get this file and this file. This is a big one. Actually, that's going to take forever. I check my elevator bar and I see it takes forever. So instead, I'm going to put my mouse in here and say Control A, which is select all. Again, these tricks, you got to know these. Control C, and for purposes of ease of use, I'm going to open Notepad. It's just a text editor. in Notepad here, I'm going to say Control V. This is this giant file with 120,000 lines. We're already using big data. And I'm going to save it. I am going to save it to your class directory, MSDA Fall 2020, on my flash drive. You have to know where you're saving it. But I need to name this file the same thing as what it's going to want. And this first one is this. So I want to name that. So now I've got one file. I need to get the second file. Back to Get Stuff. Click on it. This one's easier, but I can still say Control A, easier meaning smaller. Control C, back to Notepad. Control V, paste it in. File, save as. For most of you, this is probably more than you need to see. Apologies for that. This is fairly simple. It's just orienting you in how you kind of got to pay attention to multiple sources to get through the labs. I'm going to name this lab 102. Same directory. Why is it so important that I know where it is? Well, it's so important that I know where it is because now here in the script, you can see that I'm loading these two files. And you may not be familiar with these R commands. You will learn those over time, but just intuitively you can kind of guess that I'm loading up those two files. If I ran this with this directory, I would get an error because set WD means set working directory. I'm going to set my own working directory. If you go up to session here, you can set it by browsing to it in this nice IDE. That's where I saved the file. So that's what I want my working directory to be. There's the command down in the console area. If I want to save this in the script, I can. I could replace it there. And again, how do you run it? If it's in the script, then you click run and then it goes down into the console area and executes. Okay, that's good. Now, this should work because this file exists in this directory. So if I click run here, I don't expect an error. It took it a second because it's 120,000 observations, but it did work. Cool. Now notice, since I have the script, I can go click, 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 and as long as I am not getting errors, complete the whole lab. It's really a great way to learn. If you click run and you get an error, you know, if I did this without changing the working directory, I would have got an error, and usually it will clue you into what went wrong in your script lines. But now it's looking at data. You can see I'm looking at the header. I'm looking at the first 10 lines of the lab1 file. I named that file lab1 from this. There's the first 10 lines and the tail and whatever. Now, over here on the hyperlink, step 6 part 1 says record the value of the 10th line. So if I'm in the lab guide, this is step 4 part 1. I just read in the script, I ran it. I'm on step 5. Here we go. Verify the contents of the table. So head lab 1, this is in the EMC lab guide. Head lab 1 and 10, record the value of the 10th line here. Now if you were doing this lab guide, you'd have to do everything. But the hyperlink tells me I just need this, so the 10th line. So I go back to RStudio, and I did the head, and there's the 10th line right here. So in this console area, I can say Control C and just copy it. Now, where am I going to copy it to? Well, we're posting all of our screenshots and our answers to our Google sites, which we've all made. So here's my example. Google site for MSDA. I need a Lab 02, so I click on the plus sign, make a new page called Lab 02. I am in Classic Sites. I do my work and my video work in Classic Sites, so if yours looks different, make sure to note that. And here I am, Lab 02, and I'm just going to say Control V and paste it. Now it's kind of nice, I think, to also copy the question. So there's the question. So I'll go back to my Google site here and put that at the top for the TA. There it is, line 10, 1791. I check with my key. You don't get to check with your key, but I get to check with my key. And it looks correct, so I say save, and this is how the teaching assistant is going to grade these. Going to come into this thing and click on your Lab 2 directory and check that you did it correctly. So again, the hyperlink tells me to post it to the Google site. I'm not going to go through and do the whole lab. You can run through this in RStudio step by step, following your instructions and using the script, and it's just fantastic. So those things together let you complete the lab successfully. You want to do the scripts, but you just need to answer the questions that we ask. So watch for specific instructions, integrate hyperlink and lab guide, and also the videos, which give some really nice examples that are smaller prior to doing the labs. And you will be successful and you will enjoy this. I really like RStudio. I use it for my research all the time. And again, my son is a college student. He's using RStudio at Ohio State. Everybody uses this. So it's great advantage for you to get familiar with it. Good luck. I hope you enjoy it.